And welcome everyone to a Katz Chats here with the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm Andy Katz. Pleased to be joined by Indiana State head coach Josh Schertz. Josh, I have not talked to one coach that either has played you or has watched you who does not believe that Indiana State, assuming you get in, hopefully you get in, is a team that definitely could win games, go on a nice deep run. I know we have a long runway before that, but there's such a great feeling and confidence about this team outside of Terre Haute. What's going on inside that locker room with this community, with this team that gives you so much confidence that you've got this team going in the right direction?
Well, I'm glad all the other coaches are putting the pressure on us to go in. Easy to say when you're not in it, right? But no, we've got a really good group, really do. I think we've obviously got a lot of talent, which is the number one thing, of course. But as you know, there's much more to it than just that. We got a group that I think cares about the right things. I think they really try to make the game easier for each other. They played hard for one another. While we have a lot of talent, I think they sacrifice and give up for the good of the group. Everybody tries to not only understand their function, but they don't try to redefine their function. All the pieces of the puzzle fit well together, and guys aren't trying to do things outside of that. I think we have guys, we talk a lot about there's a difference between, great players and great winners. They're not necessarily synonymous. And we think in that locker room, we got a lot of great winners. We got a lot of guys that, some guys play for stats, some guys play to win. We got a lot of guys in that locker room that, really care about winning, that are ferocious competitors. And so all those things together, when you start with the talent, then you add those intangible things to it, give you a chance to have a really good year. Now, the key always is, making sure that we obviously got to stay healthy, and then you got to continue to improve, because whatever you are now, the only key to getting where you're trying to get to is constantly get better. So that's the challenge for this group.
So look, Villa gets a lot of pub glasses. Is he the Joker? All these kinds of things. But you've got great balance. You've got various people leading the team, and whether it's scoring, rebounds, assists, someone else is leading each category. 5 scores in double figures, and maybe a different player each night that could lead you. Where does that balance come from in terms of when you looked at how you were going to put this roster together? How did you think it was going to play out?
Well, you never know. I mean, you always you hope, right? I mean, there's 2 type of forecasters: those that don't know and those that don't know they don't know, right? So you hope, right? You hope. But I thought, we obviously knew that Robbie, coming off his freshman year, had a chance to be a guy that you could build your offense around. And we talk a lot about, the way we play. We use the 5 as the hub of what we do. 1 through 4 are pretty interchangeable. That's been the way we've played for, a long time here, right? So going back to my Division II days. But he was a perfect hub for how we want to play. And then we felt like, Julian Larry is a returning guy, had started, proven himself. He's in his 4th year here, 4th year as a starter. He predates me. And then we felt like, when I looked at our roster in the fall, Ryan Connell, Isaiah Swoper were transfers, guys that came in from the portal, Indiana kids, that they fit and played really, really well together. They were both, immensely talented, but their games complement each other. And so it was, who's the 5th piece? And honestly, that's been Jason Kent, who might not be our best player, but he's definitely our most important player. And he's done some things in terms of, he's having an all-league type year, averaging 14 and 7, up from, I think, 5 and 2.5 last year. And so his ability to play without the ball and not need plays called for him and score without the basketball has allowed all those guys to kind of thrive within what they do. And Isaiah does some really good things and is probably the best scorer. Julian is arguably as good a perimeter defender as in the league, and his ability to punch gaps and create pace. He might be the fastest player end to end with the ball. Ryan Conwell's kind of just a guy who can do everything at a high level. And then, Jason's ability to move the ball ties all together. Then Robbie's the centerpiece fulcrum of what we're doing. And then we got a guy in Xavier Bledson off the bench that, is going to be the mix for 6th man of the year. And he comes in and can play, really any spot on the floor for us, from 5 all the way down to the guard positions, and facilitate like a point guard. And so it's given us a nice balance. And again, those pieces have been able to, you hope when you put it together that it fits like this. But they do. They really Sometimes you get each other's way. This group amplifies each other, and they make the game easier for each other. And that's what you hope for when you're putting a roster together.
You clearly knew this team was going to be pretty good. A lot of times, Valley teams will play one ways, guarantees. Sometimes they get in tournaments, sometimes they don't. But you guys put together a schedule of a team that thinks they're going to be pretty good, that will help the metrics, and you do sort of test out well. What do you think you got out of that non-conference that will benefit this team in March?
Well, I think, I think there's a couple things. One is you got to put yourself on the road in a tough scenario. I don't know that there's been a harder environment to play in than Michigan State in terms of how loud that was. An incredibly high level competition, Alabama. So you got two, from a net standpoint in that top, 15. I think Alabama's top 10 and Michigan's about 15, 16 in that area. You're playing high level competition on the road, and Michigan State's environment was about as hard as it gets, which I think, those games prepare you. Like when we went to Bradley, which is an incredibly hard place to play with a great team, we'd already been to Alabama. So we kind of knew, hey, we tested ourselves. We kind of know the deal. I think those challenges, you find out where the line is, all right, if we want to get to be a team that can get into, if we're going to get into March Madness, what's the line look like that we got to be able to hit to win a game, not just get there and be happy that, we're in March Madness, but what's the line like to win a game? And so I thought we made great strides. We kind of bookended it. We started off Alabama in early November and then Michigan State December 30th. So we got to kind of gauge our progress, 2 benchmark games. And I think it gave us great confidence going in that we can play on the road. We know we got a good basketball team. We had chances. Certainly Alabama game, we didn't have Avila. He was hurt at that point of the year. So we played without him. It was a close game till the final 10 minutes. Michigan State, we led by 5 with 10 minutes to go. That was a close game down the stretch. But I went to the locker room after the Michigan State game, and it was great because guys were upset. Nobody was in there going, man, we played them close. That was a tough game. Like guys were really disappointed that we didn't win. And that goes back to, the competitive character, the DNA of the group, the competitive disposition, which has been really, really good all year. And so I think it's benefited us a lot because in the Valley, as you know, we've already been to, we're only 8 games in, but we've been to Drake, Bradley, Northern Iowa, Murray State. We've been to some of the hardest plays in this league in the first 8 games of our schedule. So, the league office didn't do us any favors, but that's good for us because those games prepared us to go to those places.
Yeah, and I'm glad, we talked about the other players because with Avila, he's going to get the headlines because, he's got the hype, but at the same time, this team is way more than just him. Great player, but I'm just saying there's a lot more. So I'm glad we got that out there. Last 2 things. One, you were another great example that coaching is coaching. And going up from whatever division, if you go from 3, 2, JC, NAI, doesn't matter. If you can coach, if you know how to run a program, you can get it done. What do you hope in your small, sort of your world, just doing sort of what you're doing? What do you hope that says to other athletic directors out there that say, hey, if you got a D2 guy that you're high on, D3, you name it, they can get it done at this level?
Yeah, I think, there's a misconception that, that there's a monopoly on good coach at the Division I level, and every other level is filled with guys that, can't stack up. And I think that's, it's been proven over and over again to be a pretty faulty notion. I mean, just look at the, what is it, DeBoer from Washington, right? He's an NAI head coach for a period of time. We've had a Division II level. You look at, Tobin going in and winning a game last year in the tournament and coming straight from Division II, what he's done there. And there's a lot of examples. Chris Beard, is a Division II guy coming through. And so you could just name 100. And there's a lot of coaches, like you said, at all levels. I don't care if it's high school, college, junior college. There's always an adjustment, you got to make. But as you said, coaching is coaching. Program building is program building. Culture building is culture building. And you hope that that there's less ADs that are, a lot of times when hires are made, it's to make the safe hire, right? To protect themselves and say, well, we hired this guy, he has this pedigree, we thought that would be, and it falls flat. And that there's guys out there that are maybe a little outside the box, but that can come in and be successful, and the transition is not impossible. You got to surround yourself with the right staff, you got the right people, but at the end of the day, those things translate, and hopefully that opens more doors because there's a lot of great coaches at all levels that would excel as head coaches of Division I if given the opportunity. And hopefully this, not just myself, but a lot of other coaches that are coming up here and succeeding are shining that light on those guys. And hopefully more opportunities will come available for coaches opposed to what we see generally, which is the, guys being recycled and you're trying to kind of, hire this assistant, that assistant. And not that they wouldn't be good fits, but there is something to be said for head coaching experience and having done it.
So one last thing, we got 7 weeks. I still think you guys, regardless, should be in, when we get there. Obviously, the way the ticket in is to win in St. Louis. What is it going to take for this collection of Sycamores to be that last team standing in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think, we've got to just continue to go to work. I mean, I think there's, it is hard to respond to success. I know that doesn't make sense, but, everybody wants to respond to a failure. When you're winning, it becomes, a lot of things can seep in from outside noise to complacency to, entitlement. And you start to maybe, read the press clippings, or you start to think you don't have to do quite what you did. So it's on us to make sure that we continue to focus on playing to a standard every single game. When we start every year off, we have 2 goals. One is to play to our standard, which we talk about internally a lot, every single time we put the jersey on. And we hold ourselves to that, win or lose. Then the second piece is to be at our best when it matters most. Like, what's our ceiling as a team? And when does it matter most? Of course, elimination time. And that comes for every college basketball team. There's a time where, hey, it's win or go home. You better be at your absolute best, at your ceiling as a team when it matters most. And those are the only 2 things we talk about. So the goal in St. Louis is to be whatever this team's ceiling is. And I still think we're a long way away from that. We want to be hitting that ceiling when we step on the floor in the Enterprise Center, ready to play and compete in what I think is as good a conference tournament as there is in college basketball.
Josh, appreciate it. You're off to a great start. A lot more games to come. And anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate all the work you do.